But we all think we have competition out there in whatever we're doing, don't we? Your competition is not other insurance companies. It's not the government programs and so forth. Your competition is thinking that predominates in our society. Several years before writing Becoming Your Own Banker, I was trying to get the message out through seminars to local people and to others around the country that asked me to come speak. Now, it was not an easy job. Would you believe on several occasions at 7:15 p.m., I went home because no one showed up. But there were successes. Word began to spread, and agents from any number of states began to come to seminars here in Birmingham. The groups are rather small, so 6 to 8 was quite often common. But I noticed something right away. Agents thought they got the concept after attending just 1 or 2 sessions, and they felt that I'll just add this little idea to my repertoire of sales practices in my life insurance career, and maybe this will increase my income a little bit, just another tool in my toolbox. They were not getting the big picture at all. Now, I think this attitude is the result of the information and the mindset that the life insurance industry has produced. I've been involved in the life insurance business for 50 years now. So I've had the opportunity to observe how most of the leaders think. Now, my candid appraisal is that they don't think very deeply at all. They are standing in the midst of something that's absolutely fantastic, something that will change the world, the financial world, and they don't see it. It's all because of the way they think. Now, during my 23-year career with Equitable Life, there are many occasions in which I was invited to speak at various functions around the country. Invariably, it was a panel of 3 agents plus a moderator. Well, that meant that each agent had 15 minutes to get across the point. Now, you go ahead and tell me how in the world you're going to get across the concept of infinite banking concepts in 15 minutes. There is no way. So, my background as a consultant forester for 10 years, together with my passion for Austrian economics, which began in 1957, together with my life insurance career, 20 years at that time, led me to see the necessity of having a think tank session twice a year with a cadre of agents who were willing to look deeper into what this concept was all about. This was going to take time to change their thinking about money and financial matters. Again, the groups were very small, probably 10 at the most. Later on, when David Stearns retired from the military and joined me, we saw that one think tank session per year was adequate. Last year, we had 225 this event. And we're very grateful for the acceptance that we've experienced and the interest in our concept. So our book sales are beyond my wildest imagination. I had no idea all this was going to happen. But over the last few years, we've noticed that there continued to be many agents all over the country who knew all there was to know about this concept, although they had never attended even one of my seminars. And they were perverting it with ideas and products that don't meet our standards of teaching. For instance, we have an outstanding example of part of this phenomenon right here in the room with us. Now, I have his permission to talk about him. Justin Kraft, stand up and let folks see who you are. Now, to set the stage for this, you got to realize my frustration of conducting 10-hour seminars all over the United States, but I could never get anybody in Birmingham, Alabama to sponsor a seminar. That just bugged me big time. But sometimes you just got to slap some folks upside the head to get their attention. Now, in addition, we found ourselves in the frustrating position of having to deal with copycat groups, the ever-present urge to reinvent the wheel. And we're also working with getting home offices to formally send agents through our training program. Now, it says some companies have already responded by providing financial assistance to agents to go through our IBI program. Now, hopefully, this will grow as time goes by. Now, we've made amazing progress, really. By the way, in the world of ideas, a young academic is worried that people will steal his ideas. An old academic is worried that they won't. So we saw the need to limit the size of our think tank symposium to serious students of IBC, and you're the ones, okay? Now, I'll just have to tell you that one prominent person in the life insurance arena told David and me face-to-face a couple of years ago that upon my demise, infinite banking concepts will disappear. Because of you, I don't think that's going to happen. Because of what you've heard so far, this is not about selling life insurance. This is about total overhaul of the way people live. It has to do with the way that they think and behave. It just so happens that the biggest problem out there revolves around money. And the best solution to the problem that the entire world is in is accomplished by dividend-paying whole life insurance. So that is the means by which we accomplish this goal. Now, in our group today, many of you have completed the course and passed the test and are members. Thank you, members. Because of you, this idea will grow. Now, there are some who've enrolled in the course but have not completed and passed the test, and we urge you to finish the job and join us in our efforts. You are the pioneers in this project. We salute you and we thank you for your leap of faith in us and in our vision. You have hitched your horses to the right wagon. It's going to grow. There's no way that it won't. You are shining the light of truth on a dark financial world. Light overcomes darkness. God is the source of light out there, folks. You are reflectors of light. So stick to the truth out there, and this idea won't disappear. Because this is not about selling life insurance. This is about changing the world and the way that they think. Now, thinking involves the use of our brain, so let's consider the works of people who've studied how the brain works. A prominent personality is David Sousa. He says the human brain is a wet, fragile mass that weighs a little over 3 pounds. It's about the size of a small grapefruit. It's shaped like a walnut and can fit in the palm of your hand. Cradled in the skull and surrounded by protective membranes, it's poised at the top of the spinal column. The brain works ceaselessly, even while we are asleep. David Sousa says teachers are brain changers. You are a brain changer. Now, you've got to consider as much as possible about what's already in the brain of your client or prospect. Why does he think that way? David Sousa, in his book, How the Brain Learns, considers the idea of different kinds of thinking. Thinking is easier to describe than to define. Its characteristics include the daily routine of reasoning, where one is at the moment, where one's destination is, and how to get there. Have you ever considered that you're a financial travel agent? When someone asks you, what do you do? Well, why don't you tell them, I'm a financial travel agent. Might work good in your elevator speech, right? It includes developing concepts, using words, solving problems, abstracting, intuiting, and anticipating the future. Other aspects of thinking include learning, memory, creativity, communication, logic, and generalization. In changing a paradigm, we've got to consider what a paradigm is. It's a model or pattern for something that may be copied, a theory or a group of ideas about how something should be done, made, or thought about. IBC is a major paradigm shift for most people. They don't think this way. Now, contrast that with opinion, a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm writing them, voicing my opinion on an issue of great importance. Belief, judgment, thoughts, mind, viewpoint, outlook, attitude, stance, position, perspective, persuasion, or standpoint. Now, all of you are familiar with this slide. I'm depicting what I see going on out there in the big wide world as an Austrian economist. That this is what has been drilled into the brains of people. And as a result, the entire world is in the grips of the banking community. That 34.5 cents out of every dollar that the guy on the street spends is going to the banking business. And I'm assuming he's saving 10%, which is a lie. This is what is going on with the dividend-paying whole life insurance policy. Now, the life insurance industry has been concentrating on death claims here. You put premiums in this sort of thing to provide death claim. Well, no way you can possibly have this without this sort of stuff going on with the insurance company. And everybody knows that the policyholder outranks everybody in the access to the money that's got to be lent. Well, as a result of the thinking that has been taking place in the life insurance industry, particularly CLU studies, Dr. Hebner invented the idea of human life value. But haven't I demonstrated that your need for finance is greater than your need for protection? Now, there have been all kinds of people out there who said Nelson Nash did not invent the idea of infinite banking concept, that everybody always have known that they've got to lend money and you can make policy loans. But nowhere in history, you show me somewhere where someone has pointed out that this is greater than this. That is my contribution to the financial world. Now, while I was growing up in Athens, Georgia, I was a member of Prince Avenue Baptist Church. All churches encourage young folks to express their understanding of the vital things in life. I remember at age 15, I was asked to make such a presentation at a Sunday evening service. I laid the foundation of my talk by pointing out that we know our world through our 5 senses, which we all possess, and that our attitude toward these things, all important things that determine our outcomes in life. In other words, I could change the world by changing my thinking. I continued, as you change your thinking, your attitude will change. As your attitude changes, your beliefs and actions will follow. And a peace that transcends all understanding will guard your mind and heart in Christ Jesus. Considering that the mind can only entertain one thought at a time. Now, we can flit from one thought to another in an instant, but you can only do one thing at a time. It's impossible to think about 2 things at the same time. Thinking is hard work, and mankind is a lazy beast. Now, the result is rote behavior on most people, and so we all have a paradigm by which we live our lives. We have a procedure for which we accomplish a lot of things in life. Now, I've been an aviator since 1946, and so I spent many years alone in the seat of an airplane. Pilots have described flying as hours and hours of boredom punctuated by a few moments of stark terror. Now, those hours and hours of boredom, be able to think about other things. You're doing things about rote behavior. So it's not a bad thing, rote behavior, but for God's sake, do some thinking in between. And so, why is it people behave the way that they do? It's all because of the way they think. Nightingale says the mind is like a field. It doesn't care what you plant there. Whatever it is, it will grow. If you plant good thoughts, you'll become good. If you plant bad thoughts, you'll become bad. If you plant nothing, you become nothing. Now, my personal observation reveals that there's not all that much thinking going on in the world today. But there's caveats that we've got to bear out there. Beware of an open mind. You get a lot of garbage thrown into it. Do you realize how much noise there is out there that surrounds everything that's going on? Why would you spend your time on noise? I've had to call down several agents because of their concern on noise that's out there. My response is, isn't your time more valuable than that? Consider what St. Paul counsels his followers to do in Philippians 4, verse 8 of the Bible. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Now, that brings us around to what are we observing out there in the thought process of what goes on in our everyday world. Notice how the predominant thinking in the USA today emphasizes college education. I've been knowing Walter E. Williams for 37 years. That great Austrian economist at George Mason University, syndicated columnist and so forth. Walter Williams says half the kids in college should not be there. It's a total waste. Now, educational inflation builds on itself. From the point of view of the individual degree seekers, the best response to its declining value is to get even more education. I need one more degree and one more degree. And I remember way back there in 1954, as I was getting off of active duty with the Air Force, a bunch of us first lieutenants, and we were discussing at a coffee break one time, what we're going to do when we get out. And I remember several of them said, I'm going back to college. That's the only thing I know how to do. Now, have you observed that the entire world is in the worst financial shape of all history? Unbelievable debt. How did this condition come to pass? Could it be the way people are taught to think? Well, who are the teachers? Does that give you a clue? Infinite banking concepts is not about rates of return on an investment. It's about who is the banker in your life. When you buy something, money has got to flow from you to that other party in a relatively short period of time, or otherwise they won't do business with you. That flow has to come from an adequate source of money. That source is the banking function in life. Now, since the beginning of the 20th century and up to this point, people have lost the concept of holding that function at the you and me level and have turned it over to the bankers. This has resulted in financial slavery. In June of 2012, the sponsor was Arkady Milgram. Now, Arkady came to the United States in 1989 with $100 in his pocket. That was all he could take out of Russia. Now, he's done extremely well financially. He's only known about the life insurance business about 7 years. Now, in his group of attendees, there were about 25 Russian immigrants and about 20 of us USA types. Now, about halfway through the seminar, I'm stressing to the group what a peaceful, stress-free way of life it is when you get out of the clutches of the bankers, and that you can't get this done overnight. It's going to take time. It took me 13 years to get rid of the bankers, but Mary and I have not seen a banker in 20 years. That is stress-free, peaceful way of life. And a brainstorm hit me about that time. I said to myself, look, here in our group is a lady doctor, a neurologist from Russia. I'm going to pick her brain. I have no earthly idea what she's going to say. Doctor, what part does stress play in medical maladies? Her response, it all starts there. I asked the group, tell me, what is the biggest stress factor that you see out there in the everyday lives of people? A chorus came back. It's money. That is what infinite banking is about. It's not about selling life insurance. Infinite banking is about who is the banker and the realization that the perfect way of becoming your own banker is through product of life insurance. When we are stressed, the following happens. Blood pressure rises, breathing becomes more rapid, digestive system slows down, heart rate rises, immune system goes down, tense. We don't sleep. How many of you read the book Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowd? But a very important thing about human behavior is in this book. It's a collection of essays about weird things that have happened down through history. And in the very beginning of it, Mackay says, men, it has been said, think in herds. Think in a herd. It's been seen they go mad in herds while they only recover their senses slowly, one by one. Do you see what you're up against? You're up against 100 years of stupidity that has taken place. It happened gradually over a period of time. How many of you have used the little YouTube, The Banker? Here's this dignified man sitting in front of the fireplace reading Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and he finds a passage and he chuckles. Then he realizes he has company. You. He lays the book down gently, turns and addresses you. Hello, my name is William Montague III, and what I'm about to tell you, you will think is absurd. But the less you believe it, the more we like it. Because you see, I'm in banking. He goes on to explain there's only a few of us. And if you knew that, you could put us out of business. Life insurance companies cannot inflate. Banks are the source of inflation. Banks have created all the problem out there. And as Carlos Lara pointed out to you about 3 years ago, if you have a loan of any kind with any banking institution, you are part of the problem. And so in helping you first, and next, your clients, to change their fundamental thinking, here's some points to consider. There are only two sources of income, people at work and money at work. In the typical American family through the first 40 years of the 20th century, the father worked outside the home and the mother managed the home, nurturing the family, instilling spiritual values of the children as they matured. There were no 30-year mortgages during that time. When I bought my first used car in 1952, 1/3 was required down. 18 months was the maximum allowed in repayment period. Credit cards hardly existed. In short, the banking function in life was much more at the you and me level than we have today. So now, as a result of the mess that we're in, it's widely accepted that a family just can't make it without both spouses working outside the home. It takes two incomes just to make ends meet. Now, could it be the fact that in most families today, they just don't have any money at work? It doesn't have to be this way. The phenomenon developed with the start of World War II with the power of the state. Men have always lusted after power. Wars cost money, and that resulted in a huge increase in the power of the bankers. And today, the banking function is almost totally controlled by bankers. How'd this happen? Fundamental financial thinking changed. And so, it doesn't have to be that way. The function can be totally recaptured through understanding the IBC and its practicing it in everyday life. Now, consider another thought. If you knew at passive income time, that's my substitute for retirement, that you'd be getting back everything you put into a system tax-free, would you object to putting more money into it? Examine all the illustrations in Becoming Your Own Banker, and you'll see that the policy owner is receiving passive income at age 65 or 70 and recovers all the cost of the policy in about 4 years. Yet the income continues until death and still pays a tremendous death benefit. Now tell me, how many financial gurus understand that? Go to my second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, and find the chapter that tells about the dividend-paying whole life insurance policy I bought in 1959. And you'll see the 4 checks that I've received tax-free from the policy. In these checks, I've recovered everything I put in the policy. The cash pay continues to grow at a rate of nearly 5% with no taxation, and the death benefit continues to grow, and that's in these terrible economic times. Consider also, you get paid for your work, you put all of it into somebody else's bank, don't you? When you get paid, it goes to somebody else's bank. You write checks out the backside. Well, if you had a big enough banking system, would you want to run all your money through your system? So, isn't it obvious that eventually income and premium should match? Should. This can't be done immediately. It'll take the average person about 20 years to reach that goal. If this message is taught to succeeding generations, then a perpetual banking system can be achieved. For more thoughts on this matter, study the chapter on even distribution of age classes in Becoming Your Own Banker, page 71 through 74. Do this as many times as it takes for you to totally memorize what that's about. Well, again, how did we get in this mess that we got going on? How did governments build a trap to enslave people? Now, I'm spearheading an effort to change the name of Washington, D.C. to the Fear Factory. Everything coming out of that place is based on creating fear among the populace. The world is coming to an end because of blank, and only the federal government can save us from this catastrophe. Fear is a very powerful motivator, and it's an easy thing to consider and instill in the minds of citizens. So, consider, when government creates a problem, onerous taxation, and then turns around and grants you an exception to the problem they created in a tax-qualified plan, aren't you just a little bit suspicious you're being manipulated? Additionally, they've continually made changes in the IRS code. According to the CCH Standard Federal Tax Reporter, as of 2013, it now takes 73,954 regular 8.5 by 11 pages to explain the complexity of the federal tax code. Tax-qualified plans are all created under the guise of giving you a tax break. First, there were pension plans for corporate employees. Then came H.R. 10 plans for partners and proprietors. Finally, IRAs, and now 401ks. Now, everyone has an exception to the IRS code. Now, look, folks, if government really wanted to give you a tax break, all they had to do was cut out the taxes. Do you think they want to do that? The name of the game is to control your life. Now, have you noticed that, we've been celebrating this last year as the 100th anniversary of the Federal Reserve? But did you also notice that that was the year income tax was created? Do you realize there's a correlation? They want you to think that your blessings in life come from government instead of from God. When you think about all of these things, do you really have a valid reason for participating in a tax-qualified plan of any kind? Do you have the courage to bring your client and your prospect face-to-face with that fact? See, we all think we have competition out there in whatever we're doing, don't we? Your competition is not other insurance companies. It's not the government programs and so forth. Your competition is thinking that predominates in our society. Now, wealth has got to reside somewhere. Where are you going to have it reside? Real estate, stock market, or in free contract with other free people. That's all life insurance is. Nobody compels you to buy life insurance. You're getting together with a bunch of like-minded people to solve a problem. I've demonstrated that your need for finance during your lifetime exceeds your need for a death benefit by a wide margin. If you solve for your need for finance through loans and repayments from life insurance cash values, you'll end up with so much life insurance you can't get it past the underwriters. They won't write that on you. You'll have to end up insuring everybody you have an insurable interest in. Now, you must know that that person has got to be willing to sign the application, and the insurance company has got to be convinced that you're going to suffer a loss in case this person dies on you. I'm a very simple fellow. This is a very simple process. Don't complicate it. There's only 4 points to it. Think long range. At least 3 generations. In my family, we're working on the 4th. Put large amounts of capital into the system. Face it, the more capital you put into any business, the stronger it is. Don't steal from the system. And lastly, don't do business with banks. So don't complicate it.